Hi everyone, Amber here from Majestic. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you believe that we are already on month 7 of Cotton Cut's Spring 2024 Puzzle Mystery Quilt? As always, I am sewing up the large size in a Moonlit. I'm loving the colorway, and again, it's my first large, and I cannot wait to see it all come together. I can't believe we're already over halfway through. So there are 3 sections this month, quite a bit of sewing. We have 2 of section 7A, 2 of section 7B, and 4 of section 7C.
Okay.
So I'm loving it. It's coming together so beautifully. Thank you again to Cotton Cuts for allowing me to be an ambassador. I just absolutely love Cotton Cuts as a company, and I'm so proud that I can help them promote their Puzzle Mystery Quilt. It's what taught me to quilt. So a couple things that I want to share with you. One, if you did not watch the really cool video of Kim and I facing off, sewing a block together for the Stitch It to Win It, it's on the Cotton Cuts YouTube channel, and it was so much fun. So I'm going to link that below. Definitely check it out. And also their fall 2024 Puzzle Mystery Quilt just opened up, just shipped last week. It's Wild West, and I am the ambassador for the Josie colorway. I'm sewing up a large Josie. It's still in stock, and there's still quite a few colorways left in stock. So if you are interested in signing up, you can use code AmberWest. You'll get a bonus gift, and they'll start shipping immediately because they only just started shipping last week, and you're not too late to join. So I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, please consider liking it or subscribing. It does help my channel grow, and I appreciate it so much. Enjoy the tutorial. Okay, so it is month 7. If you've been following along with me, you know that I lay all my pieces out according to this chart. And there's something that I definitely want to show you. On this chart, it shows that there are 4 squares. However, there are actually 5. There is an F fabric, and if you look in our 7C block, we do need an F square. So although there's not an F square shown here, we do have them. So I just wanted to point that out in case you're like me and you're like, oh, something's not right as you're laying them out. That is what it is. It's not listed, but it is needed. So have everything laid out. I have my pressing mat iron. I am using my Singer 5528. I have the Aurifil thread and a 7010 universal needle. And I have my clue and my color-coded card. So for clue 7, for the large size, we have 3 different sections. We have 2 of 7A, 2 of 7B, and 4 of 7C. So I'll be making 1 of each section for the tutorial. Okay, so let's get started with 7A. And since there's only 2 of them, I'm cutting all these numbers over here in half. So I am making 1. So I need 2 small A triangles and 2 small D. And this is where I need to pay extra special attention because on the chart here, the A is light colored, but in my colorway, it is dark. And then the D is dark and the colorway is white. So I tend to accidentally flip them around quite often. So just be very mindful of that. Okay, and I have 2 right there, and I'm going to start by chain piecing them. So again, I put them right sides together. And if you're doing all your blocks at once, you want to do the 4 at one time. That would help a lot. And I'm just adjusting my settings because I was recently making a bag. When I am sewing with the Aurifil thread, I notice I have to put my tension down lower than with the thicker bag making thread. Okay, so we have 2 of these. And you can clip them together. Again, I am just holding them because they're on the smaller side. And I'm doing the full 1/4 inch seam allowance. That consistent seam allowance is very important. As long as you've been consistent the whole way through, your blocks should all fit together very nicely. So for me, it's really hard to get that scant 1/4 inch. So I just do the full. Okay, and so we are pressing up to the top right towards piece A, and that is our darker fabric. And again, I like to press the back first and gently open them. You don't want to iron them like pressing down back and forth. You'll warp your blocks that way. Okay, I cannot believe we are already on month 7. And last week, the Wild West Puzzle Mystery Quilt started. So if you haven't signed up already, sign-ups are still open. You can still get in on the fun with that one. Okay, so I'm going to set one of these to the side for a second because now for step 2, I need a D square to the right of step 1. So I'm rotating this so my A fabric is to the top left, and I need a D square. In the Moonlit colorway, that D fabric is the light colored. Okay, and sometimes I end up flipping these and sewing the wrong side. So again, I'm just being very mindful that I'm not turning this, getting my directions all messed up. And I always trim the threads as close as I can as I'm going. Okay, and then for this one, our seams are going to be pressed towards the left-hand side. So the side that has the 2 half square triangles. Again, so I'm pressing the back and then gently opening it. Okay, I'm going to set that one aside for a second. Now for step 3, we need a D square and an A square. And so again, this light colored fabric, I'm making sure I have the right side facing up. Okay, and we are just sewing the 2 squares together. So easy enough, right sides together. They match up perfectly. And for this one, we are pressing our seams to the right-hand side, so towards the A fabric. Again, that's the darker fabric for the Moonlit colorway. I'm really loving this colorway. Never done a neutral before, but I love the ocean vibe and all the blues and grays. Okay, so now step 4, we're going to be joining. So we need what we made in step 2 is going to go to the top of step 3. So you can see here, our 2 A colors are across from each other and our D fabrics are all connected. Now for this, I am going to clip them and our seams will nest. So I'm putting them right sides together and I'm lining up that seam and I'm going to clip that first because that's most important. I want that to match up and then I'm going to clip together the rest of my edges. I just pulled my thread out. Let's see it. I'm going to rethread it real quick. If I don't rethread it right from the beginning, I don't want to mess up the tension. Hopefully I won't have to pull it all the way out again and redo it. Sometimes I forget to hold my threads when I'm sewing bags with like a thicker text. It doesn't curl, so I don't really need to hold them. But I found with the Aurifil thread, I absolutely have to fold my tails when I sew. Right, and this is what caused it. There's it like bird nests a little bit on the back, so I'm just gonna trim that out. Okay, so now for this one, we are pressing towards the top. The top is the part that has the half square triangle to that top left. Okay, so I'm going to gently open this. All right, and you can see I took the time to line up that center point where they nested, that it matches perfectly. Okay, I'm going to set this to the side for a second. So now for step 5, we need our other half square triangles that we did for step 1, and we need to sew it to the top of a D square. Okay. So I'll put that right sides together, making sure that I'm sewing the correct edge. And then for this one, we are pressing our seams down towards that solid D square. Now for step 6, we are taking the part that we just did in step 5 and adding it to the right of what we made in step 4. So you'll see you have it done correctly because all your D's kind of make a arch here. So again, I'm going to put them right sides together and we have a seam to match up. So if you pressed your seams correctly, they should nest again together. So I'm going to clip that first and then do the rest of the edges. Okay, and our seams are going to be pressed towards the left. And gently open them. I'm gently opening them. It might look, I'm not tugging on them. Again, I don't want my block to warp. And usually I give the other seams a press, especially if there's a lot that start coming together. Okay, and you can see that that seam matched up really well. So again, I'm going to set this one to the side. We have a couple more steps. Okay, so now I need a large F triangle. So F is this color here, or this fabric here for the Moonlit colorway. And then I need 2 small C triangles, and this is our C fabric. Okay, so I like to lay it out first, and I'm going to start on the right hand side. Because these are die cut, they will line up perfectly. Okay, and then I'm going to press this one to the top right. So when you're doing, these are called flying geese. When you are making these, you are pressing your seams usually up towards the smaller triangles. And I'm not using any steam in the iron or starch, anything like that, just heat. So that way nothing warps or shrinks. Okay, so now we're going to add on our left-hand side. And just making sure that they line up nicely. You can see my feed dogs pulled this one down in. So I'm just going to pull out those stitches real quick. Sometimes that happens. I usually try to hand crank them in, which usually prevents it from happening. But occasionally, especially on something that has like the corners in the triangle shape, it will catch them down into the feed dogs. You can use like a leader piece of fabric, so like where you would sew something ahead of it and then pull this one through. I just find that more of a pain for having to cut. So usually I just try again and hope it doesn't happen a second time. Okay, and that time it didn't. Sometimes it's just like put the needle down too close to the edge. So sometimes you can put your needle in a little bit more and then backstitch to the edge. Okay, and again, we're going to press this to the top left. So now we are on step 8. We need to take a small C square and add it to the left. But if you notice, our S is pointing down. So we also need to rotate our flying geese. Okay, so when we made them, our 2 small triangles were pointing up. Now they're pointing down. And our C square is on the left-hand side. Okay, and so this one is being pressed Our seams are pressed towards the right, towards the flying geese. So again, press the back and gently opening them. Okay, so now we are on our last step. We are taking step 8, which is the one that we just made with the flying geese, and joining it to the top of step 6. So I'm going to put these next to each other. You'll notice that our D fabrics make that arch. Our A square should be centered on the bottom. And on this one, I am going to use clips. And here we have 2 seams. So this seam here, I'm going to match up directly. And then this one, I'm going to try to center it to the flying geese to the point here as best as I can. So let me put them right sides together. And to do this, I lift them up and bring them close to my face so I can really see that they are lined up. So I did the left seam first. And now here, I am just kind of looking. So if you were to peel this back, I try to make sure that that seam lines up to the little V intersection there. And so then I'll clip that side and then I'll clip the rest. Yeah, so don't feel bad to like lift this up, bring it closer to you. However you need to hold it to try to get it as lined up as possible. And sometimes these seams like to flip back on themselves. So I'm just being really mindful as I'm sewing it that they're not flipping over underneath. Okay, and then so for this one, we are pressing our seams to the top. So give a nice press there and then gently open them. And it is a bulky seam right here. There's 5 different fabrics coming together, or 6 different. So I definitely add extra heat to that particular area. All right, so now that completes our 7A block, and you should have 2 of these. Okay, so now we're on 7B. We have 2 of them. So again, I'm going to be cutting all these numbers in half to make 1 for the tutorial. So we need, again, a small A triangle and a small D triangle. And then I'm going to put them right sides together. If you're doing both blocks at once, you'll want 2 of these. So I'm just doing the 1 for the tutorial. Sometimes these small triangles give me trouble. Today seems to be one of those days. Okay, and we are pressing up towards the top right, which is our A fabric for Moonlit. That's the darker one. Okay, so now we are on step 2. We are adding a square to the right. Again, put our right sides together. I love that everything just matches up perfectly. I don't need to stress about it. And for this, we are pressing our seams to the right-hand side. And I'm going to set this aside for a moment because now for step 3, we need a small A triangle and a small C triangle. Again, our C colorway looks like this. And put them right sides together. And this one is going to be pressed to the top left, so to the C triangle. Okay, and now step 4, we are joining a D square, which is our white to the left of step 3. And then again, this is where I really want to make sure that I'm putting it right sides together and sewing along the correct edge. It's so easy to get all this flipped around. Okay, and then for this one, we are pressing towards that D square. Okay, so now we're going to join all these together. So we need a large D rectangle. So a large, one of the white rectangles. And we are joining it to the top of step 4. So this one was our step 4 that had the D square and then the 2 different A and C fabrics for the half square triangle. So our D rectangle is going to be joined to the top. And I'm going to grab some clips. The nice thing is that we don't have a center seam that we have to line up. So we can just put them right sides together and line up the edges. And you can see on the left, like this is a little bit higher. So I just line it up straight across and I'm going to hide that in the seam allowance. So I base my seam allowance off the shorter side. And that's what I do if like my blocks shift a little bit or they're not exactly straight. It's so easy to hide a lot of it in your seam allowance. I just broke my thread again. today is really not my day. I think it's because I'm not being patient and I'm trying to force it. I didn't have the fabric all the way underneath, so when it went down, it didn't connect on everything and then got hung up on itself. All right, perfect. This should be better. All right, so see, now that I've sewn that seam across, you can see where the fabric sticks up a little bit is what it looks like from the back. I am not trimming that. I'm just keeping it right in the seam allowance. It gets hidden in when you quilt it. You're not even going to notice. Okay, and then this one we're pressing our seams down. And I'm gently opening them. I find the longer that the piece of fabric is, the more the seam wants to like flip back onto itself. Okay, so now we are going to take our step 2 with the A fabric to our the square to the top right. And so that's going to go on top like this. And you'll know you did it right because your D fabric is all on the left. And now we're going to put that right sides together. And again, we don't have any seam to line up. So I'm not stressing that. I am just clipping it and we'll sew across. And this one, our seams are also getting pressed down towards that large D rectangle. So I'm going to press from the back. Gently open it up. All right, so that one was pretty quick. This is our 7B. You can see I have a little thread from the back. I also try to pull them, clean it up as I go. So you should have 2 of these and label them 7B. Hi guys, so I'm popping on real quick to show you. I decided not to edit it out because it was just in one full video, and it also like doesn't affect the overall block. You don't have to unpick anything. So I actually said step 2 was this part up here. Step 2 is actually attaching this vertical piece A to the 4 square over here. So I do mix it up. So if you sew it in the opposite direction, it doesn't, you're not gonna have to unpick anything. I literally just did step 3 before step 2, and then we're just combining them together. I just wanted to give you a heads up in case you are following along and you're like, what the heck is she saying? But that is what happens, and I noticed it right away. So you can do it either in the order or follow me. You won't have to unpick anything, but I just wanted to let you know. Okay, so now we're on 7C. We have 4 of these blocks. So here in the instructions where it says times 4, I will be doing 1. So let's start. Our first one, we need our fabric E. So we need a square of fabric E and a square of fabric D. Okay. And so that's 1.1, and I'm going to do 1.2 at the same time so I can sew them, like chain stitch them. So then we need our fabric D again, which is the light colored, and our fabric C squared. Okay, so I'm going to put these right sides together and sew them. And this is what I mean by chain stitch. So now I'm going to put these right sides together, and without cutting my thread and lifting this piece out, I'm just going to put the next one right underneath my foot and continue to sew. So if you're making all your blocks at once, that's really helpful to do. It's less thread that you're cutting now. You can just like cut them all apart at the end. Okay, so now for our 1.1 step, which is up here, we are pressing towards our E fabric. So if you have the Moonlit colorway, the E fabric is the one that almost looks like flowers. Okay, and then for 1.2, we are pressing towards the right, which is towards our C fabric. Okay, and why I did them both at the same time is because now for step 1.3, we are joining 1.1 to the top of 1.2. So I'm definitely going to clip this because we have seams to match up. So I'm going to put them right sides together and our seams will nest. So I'm bringing them nice and close so I can make sure that they're lined up. Clipping them first and then clipping the rest. Okay, and we are going to press our seams down towards the DC blocks. Okay, and you can see our centers match up really nice. I'm going to set that to the side for one moment. So now we need a S square. So an F square is one of these here that were not labeled on the front. And then we need a large A rectangle. Okay, and that is going to go to the right. So I'm going to put them right sides together. Okay, and then for this here, we are pressing our seams to the left, so towards that F block. Oh, I realized that I actually skipped a step. I'm going to edit it in, so you won't even know. So when you're hearing me say this, you didn't skip anything. Okay, so for step 2 here, I jumped to step 3, which is fine. Step 2 here, we need our step 1 that we just did with our ED on the top. And we are going to add a rectangle to the left-hand side. So just like this. And there's no center seam to match up because we have a rectangle. So I'm just going to line up my edges and clip them. Okay, and so for this one, we are pressing our seams to the 4 squares. So to the right-hand side, I'm going to press the back first. And then gently open this up. Okay, so that is our step 2. Now, step 3 is what I had already sewn with that F square to the left-hand side of the A rectangle. So now we are going to put this on top. So it looks like this. So we should have an A rectangle vertical on our left, the A horizontal on top, and then our square should be F, E fabric, C fabric. Our 2D fabrics are alternating. So you definitely want to check that to make sure. So now I'm going to flip this right sides together. We have only this seam here that I need to match up. So I'm going to match that up first and clip it. And then I'll clip the rest. All right, this one looks, I'm just going to double check the seam because it looks a little bit off to one of the sides, which it might just happen because of how I've sewed. You can see that it overhangs a little bit on the right hand side, and over here it's a little short. But it's more important to me that that seam matches, and then the rest, like I said, I can always hide in that seam allowance. All right, and so we are pressing this down towards the bottom. So I'm going to flip it over. Oh, see here, you can see that my seam got a little bit twisted. I could pick it out if I really wanted to, but honestly, I just iron it as flat as possible. I usually back mine, or I like really thick blankets or quilts, so the inside I like to put a thick batting and usually use Minky, so that is not going to be noticeable. If you're using something super thin, I would pick that out and redo it. Okay, and now press with the correct side. I have a few threads coming up from the back, just where it's like fraying. So again, I'm try to clean that up as I go. All right, so now this is our 7C block, and you should have 4 of these. All right, we have just finished up month 7. We have so many different sections here. We have 3 different sections, multiple pieces of each. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Let me know how yours is coming along. Again, thank you to Cotton Cuts for allowing me to be an ambassador. And also, if you like the video, please consider giving a thumbs up or subscribing. Helps my channel grow, and I appreciate it so much. I'll see you next month for the next tutorial. Bye!